Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. We're joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to have you with us as always on this Monday.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the passing of Tim Massanelli, the former House Parliamentarian up at the Arkansas House of Representatives, the boss as he was known. And here we are at the start of a fiscal session, which he's been retired for a few years now. But your recollection of Tim Massanelli?
I started covering the state capitol in 1980. And I can think of no other person who more typified Arkansas legislative politics, that culture, than Tim Massanelli. I mean, I'd say Clinton, Pryor, and Tim Massanelli, 1, 2, 3, in any order. The parliamentarian was the chief of staff of the House. He ran the House staff, but he also sat by the Speaker of the House, who in those days was purely ceremonial, whoever was senior and was ready to do it. And they only met biennially, not every year. And his job was to make sure the Speaker could handle all the procedure properly and to be the enforcer and interpreter of the rules as the debate arose. And it gave him great power, but he used it in service to the Speaker. Whatever the Speaker wanted, Tim Massanelli could be his strongest, best, most articulate, most informed advocate. Bob Johnson wanted to securitize the tobacco settlement rather than spend it. He wanted to send it down to Stevens and let everybody make some money off of it. And I sat with Bob Johnson, and the strongest arguments at his side for the interview were Tim Massanelli. And I remember thinking, and I say this as purely as a compliment, Tim, I didn't say it to him, and I'm thinking, Tim, if you wanted, you could take the other side just as forcefully, depending on who the Speaker is. I mean that as a compliment. His job was in service to the staff and in service to the House. The consummate, and I say this complimentary too, in a complimentary way too, good old boy. Yeah. Backslapper, get along with everybody, tremendous sense of humor. And over the years, what a book he could have written if you wanted. Sitting up there in the perch of the House Speaker's chair, right beside him, observing the sometimes eccentric characters who came in and out of that House over the years. If you could get him in a social setting, as I did a couple times, with maybe a light beverage, and let him, it was like a stand-up routine to hear him talk about.
He was funny and colorful and he had great stories.
And, yeah, great stories, and he could size these people up, of course, usually after they were gone, beautifully. An institution, a true institution. Well, and so sorry that he's gone.
Yeah, his condolences to his family, and he's definitely one that will be remembered. I have a feeling we will see some more tributes to Tim Massanelli.
They will come out of the woodwork.
From his 40 years plus of service up at the state legislature, just really an icon up there. Right. All right, the fiscal session begins today on Monday. The real drama is over Arkansas Works. We've discussed it several times here. It does sound like there are some senators who have been no votes in the past who want to get to yes. Democrat-Gazette reporting on a couple of them over the weekend. The governor kind of telling me in our weekend interview that it's not so much of them flipping their votes, it's just that we have moved Arkansas Works to a more conservative position. It sounds like they're going to get there.
It did occur to me, that same conclusion, in the Sunday Democrat-Gazette piece. Senator Alan Clark, who's
and Scott Flippo from up in Mountain Home.
And what you heard them saying is, if you can read between the lines and interpret, look, Asa is trying to get this thing conservatized for us, and it's not his fault that it hasn't come through just yet. And second, we'll know for sure at the end of the biennium, in the next session, and we'd really, this is a broad interpretation of what they're saying, we really don't want to make a lot of trouble and kill this thing right now with these things pending, and the real fight would come next year when we would know more. So they're both trying, it seems to me, to not change their, as the governor says, not change their opinion of it, which is that they don't like it, but looks like he's trying to make it better. We know he's trying, and we're looking for, when somebody says, I'm looking for a way to get to yes, it's often a sign that they will get to yes. So we may by the skin of our teeth pass this thing again. If not, by the start of the fiscal year, 2 of the vacancies which complicate the thing will be filled, probably by yes votes. So we'll probably get it done with more drama, with a little brinksmanship. But yeah, I think your observation is exactly correct, and I think those are the reasons.
If it gets too conservative, if Arkansas Works gets too conservative,
You
you've
lose
got
the
the
Democrats.
real peel back of the 100 to 138% population. You've got the work component in there. Yeah, if you start getting too conservative, is it still a good program? Do the Democrats continue to support it?
There's a calculus here. There really is. I mean, it's just trying to keep this equation. But yeah, the things that get you to the 3/4 by picking up the very conservative votes, which is a work requirement, still pending, the waiver still pending, which is taking everybody from 100 and 138% of poverty and doing away with their Medicaid subsidy or their Medicaid and put them on the federal plan. You have to. Is there a point at which the Democratic minorities, which could complicate, which could block it, do they say no? No, you can't do that. I don't think so. I've had a lot of discussions with some of the Democratic legislators, and in their meetings they talk about that kind of thing, and then cooler heads prevail.
Yeah.
Like we got enough trouble right now, they think, as trying to function in this state. We don't want to throw not just those from 100 and 138, but those up to 100 off of it. We don't want to be responsible for that. It'd be too easy to be blamed. So I don't think so. You could make it too conservative, too onerous. I don't think these two get there.
Yep. All right. One other thing from our governor's interview over the weekend, he talked about sovereign immunity and basically said that the governor's office has given direction to state agencies: don't use the sovereign immunity defense without clearing it with our office first. He thinks this may be the remedy to this, minus a constitutional amendment. I would say you're kind of at the whim of a favorable governor. This is a pretty subjective application of sovereign immunity. I still contend, and I want your take on this, we still need a constitutional amendment to straighten this thing out, don't you think?
Well, the governor is a practical man, and he's got a practical fix. We just won't have our people, when they're sued, contest the right of the people to sue them on constitutional matters or things not necessarily fiscal or damages or monetary. And maybe that would work, but I was thinking, and the Attorney General of the state represents state agencies. The Attorney General of the state is obliged to give the most vigorous defense the Attorney General of the state can give to state agencies. Now, might Ms. Rutledge say, sorry, I'm the boss for this. I'm your attorney, and I'm saying this defense exists to us. Would she cross the governor like that? I wouldn't think so, but it's actually her call. It is not the governor's call to dictate to state agencies what their defense will be. It is their attorney's call, and she has constitutional status, as does she. She is not a member of his cabinet.
Correct.
She functions effectively like that. Mm-hmm. This is all a practical short-term fix. This has simply got to be clarified, because we've got things we need to do. Yeah. I mean, we need to know where you can go with your lawsuit, how it can be defended, and does our Claims Commission, which is a small agency handling without a lawyer requirement to serve and with a very small staff, do we need to beef it up in terms of resources and in terms of the qualifications to serve? And if it's going to be inundated now with, it all needs to be worked out. And the governor's a big fix it now, and let's not have a big falter all over this. And I understand that, but that's not the solution.
Maybe the Band-Aid for now to get us to the 2019 session may be what it is.
Well,
so.
You think.
But
maybe.
Then you got to get it on the ballot and approve a constitutional amendment. So, I mean, there's still
already a group working.
There is
and they've been set back because their language was not suitable for the Attorney General, but that's just part of the process. Yeah. Right. But we need a longer-term fix.
Let's take a quick commercial break, come back and talk some federal and national politics with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I'm Roby Brock. We're back right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas, and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, let's turn our attention to Congress. You had an interesting column over the weekend about the 2nd congressional district.
Did you find
race
it
there.
interesting?
I
I'm
did
so
find it
flattered that you
interesting.
did, yes.
Clark Tucker officially in, as we were speaking last week. He was stepping in. Paul Spencer, Gwen Combs in for the Democratic primary for the right to challenge Republican Representative French Hill. It sounds like we may be headed towards a spirited primary. Is that good?
Yes, it's good. It's also, you referred to my column, I think in a message to me, you said you referred to my education on the issue, and I thought that was well put. I don't want to go on too much about this, but politics is so volatile right now that the rules one will tend to apply when one has been covering it for 40 years and which always works so well, sometimes cannot be exactly right these days. And it helps an old guy like me to learn a new lesson. I remember last year for your magazine, I went out and I said, let me go find some Trump supporters and figure out what's going on out there. And I thought, I've got to go find the weirdest looking people I can find. I've got to find the fringe people. All I need to do was walk out, and the first person I saw would likely have been a Trump supporter. He got more than 60% of the vote. The weird, the outer became not so outer. Here, Clark Tucker, I've watched him in the legislature. He's incredibly accomplished. He's got all the credentials, but I sort of prematurely anointed him as the likely, if not certain, nominee. Gwen Combs organized the women's movement, which gets to be a little bit of a bigger thing every day, and she has no standard credential. She simply has passion for an issue and a movement at her disposal. Paul Spencer, at Catholic High, is a guy who has no office holding credential. His traditional resume doesn't exist, except he has led citizens initiatives for ethics reform, trying to get money out of politics, and it is possible. Gwen Combs made a point. She got nothing against Clark Tucker, but if he's the nominee, you're going to have two guys in business suits, a lawyer and a banker, running, and the difference may not be distinct to voters, will be with her. Now, I'm not prepared to say Tucker will not be the nominee, but I am prepared to say that yes, that there are things happening out there that change the way I have traditionally looked at politics. And it's not entirely new. One of Clark Tucker's credentials is he's Harvard educated. Well, I have referred to the Harvard qualification of Governor Bill Bristow and U.S. Senator Nate Coulter. It didn't.
And Senator Tom Cotton and former Governor Jim Guy Tucker.
Well, there's two who won, but two who lost.
Right.
So that's and particularly in this environment, that might not be that much of an advantage. So that's and the other thing, and I made this point in concluding the column. 4 years ago, you remember Mike Ross, they talked him into running for governor. The Democrats did. Bill Halter wanted to run, and Democrats said, oh, no, we can't, no, because we've got to not spend money and not be damaged and not be divisive in the primary. How'd that turn out? Not so good.
Right.
This is more fluid, this is more real, this is more gritty, this is more like a party. You've got three vigorous candidates, two with a great deal of passion, the other with a great deal of competence. And let's just get out there and see. Yeah. I had a woman yesterday said to me, she said, after reading your first column, I thought, well, I'm going to vote for Clark Tucker. After reading your second column, I'm thinking, well, he needs to show me something first. Fine, that's how politics is supposed to work. And it's better, see, the Democratic, if your nomination is not worth fighting for, it's not going to be worth much in the general election. So it's the seeding of a new kind of Democratic Party, and good.
All right, I'm going to give you one last topic here, but I'm going to give you multiple options within that topic.
Okay, I'll take all of them.
Trump week. No, you don't want all of them, trust me. We don't have enough time, even though there's no time limit on this. We have immigration, we have infrastructure, we have charges of domestic abuse, we have security clearances, we got Chief of Staff John Kelly. You pick one of those topics, and we will discuss that in greater detail about this last 7 days of the Trump administration, of which all of those were some topics, and I left a few out. So,
Roby, I have to combine two
Okay.
them all into a single theme.
I will let you do that.
Into a single theme, which I have made many times. The Trump presidency is one between, in which we have a dichotomy. Policies that are proceeding almost normally, some of them actually getting accomplished, but a culture that is being degraded by his behavior and his White House's internal dysfunction. This is all of those things you said are simply the story of our time.
Yep.
He is coming out with, I'll be brief, he's coming out with an infrastructure program today that I think is going to.
It's a non-starter.
It's a non-starter.
I agree.
But it advances conservative notions in a way that his base and Republicans, his non-base Republicans, will like. Throw the authority and the planning and back to the states. Let them enter into private partnerships. Do toll roads. Make it up to the states. And let's limit all these environmental and red tape and bureaucratic things that we're seeing here on I-30. You know, and let's if you want to get it done, get it done. None of that necessarily starts. I mean, that's particularly with the way the Senate now works, or with the 60
I
votes.
would argue too that local governments are not going to pony up 80% of the cost of a
the
project.
deal, and the deal is the federal government we don't know where the money's coming from, but we're going to spend this amount. But beyond that, most of it is to the local governments. But it's a policy. It's a Republican policy that we could be talking about, and yet the bigger story is not the policy. The bigger story, it comes down to this. Donald Trump continually, but in this case especially, defends men accused of misbehavior toward women without showing any requisite sympathy toward the women. He has not yet, to my knowledge, himself talked with any remorse about spousal abuse. He has given all of his compassion, all of his empathy toward the guy being found guilty while he denies something and being denied due process. And that is out of tune and out of touch with where this powerful, percolating women's movement is. And so we simply got Chapter 48 in the Trump dichotomy. Trying to have a traditional presidency and appeal to traditional Republicans and hold his base, while more cultural issues and behavioral issues disturb it. And that's just what we're dealing with.
I say we're taping on Monday. I say by Wednesday morning we're not even talking about infrastructure anymore. So
we're not going to talk about it much today. I probably just talked about it more than anybody
you
would.
probably did.
All right.
He's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to be with you.
You bet. My pleasure.
All right. Have a good rest of the week.
You too.
You have a good rest of the week too. We appreciate you tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.